With the evolution of Honkai Star Rail, we were introduced to characters on the DPS ceiling who were doing massive amounts of damage. However, this ceiling was shattered with the release of Acheron, everybody's favorite Nihility Queen of Penacony, the pinnacle, the apex of the DPS ceiling in Honkai Star Rail. But what has happened since? Acheron has fallen off a clear cliff. Whether you have equal investment in all your DPS characters, you see a noticeable difference compared to her in terms of other top tier DPS characters. So with the advent of the Nova Flame buff, many characters are getting buffed and reworked in order to bring them back to the modern day meta. Acheron is among some of the characters that are going to be receiving potentially that same buff. Today, we're going to be going over what exactly Hoyoverse could do to Acheron to bring her back to the forefront of today's meta. All right, so Acheron, everybody loves her. She is the most summoned character in Honkai Star Rail, period. There's not even a close second. Everybody loves this character, and I believe if we properly buff her, lots of players will come back to the game and re-enjoy the game that they once loved with arguably the most popular character in the game. Don't let recent polls sway you otherwise. This character was by far the most summoned character. So how exactly does she work, and how can we improve upon that? Well, obviously Acheron is a Nihility character. She wants other Nihility characters on the team in order for her to activate her ultimate, because if you don't know or if you don't remember, Acheron was the first character to introduce a unique energy mechanic with her ultimate. Now in today's day and age, we have this unique style ultimate for every element currently in the game, which is kind of funny given the fact that she was the first and many people were completely bamboozled and confused as to how this exactly worked. Well, this worked when she accumulated slashed dream, as you can see right there, up to 9. And in order to achieve slashed dream, you needed a debuff to be applied to the enemy from your other teammates. And in order to do so, let's say for example you have Acheron paired up with somebody like Kafka, because she's right here. Kafka does her basic or follow-up, you get 1 stack of a debuff on the enemy. Acheron then gains 1 stack of slashed dream in order for her to get up to that 9 stacks and activate said ultimate. Another key thing, if I can actually remember where I need to look, because it has been quite frankly that long, it might just be here. Acheron wants other Nihility characters on the team right here. When you have 2 or 1 Nihility characters other than Acheron on the team, the damage dealt by Acheron's basic, skill, and ultimate is increased by 115% or 160%. This was the big damage buff that a lot of people really wanted to get for Acheron. So all of that aside, right? How exactly has she fallen in comparison to other top DPS characters? Well, let's look at the number 1 DPS character currently in the game. And we can see here that, heck, even right here, the fire damage up to 252% of Himiko's attack to other targets. We don't even need to look at anything else. Well, obviously we have the orbital annihilation pulse right there, 762. So one thing is very apparent, and that is Acheron's damage multipliers are extremely low. So how exactly can this character get fixed? Well, I have a couple different ideas, and we need to look at what she's capable of doing, as we have already discussed, and we need to look at Eidolons and Light Cone, and then we can come to a decision as to how this character can be brought back. So let's go ahead and check out the Eidolons. E1, you're increasing the damage dealt to debuffed enemies by 18%. That in and of itself in an Eidolon is weak in today's day and age. E2, is the requirement of the Abyss is reduced by 1. So you only need one other character in order to gain the maximum damage buff from the Abyss talent. And we can also see right here, when this unit's turn starts, gain 1 point of Slash Stream and inflict 1 stack of Crimson Knot. What exactly is Crimson Knot? Jumping down over here, we can see that Crimson Knot is right here. Remove up to 3 stacks of Crimson Knot. When Crimson Knot is removed, immediately deals lightning damage equal to 15% of her attack to all enemies, kind of like an AoE-esque ability. And for each stack of Crimson Knot removed, this damage multiplier is additionally increased up to a maximum of 60%. All right, so we have the E1 and the E2 already examined, right? Obviously, you know, further investment, E4, we can look at this as well. Inflicts the enemy in combat from the ultimate damage. Vulnerability increases the amount of ultimate damage they take by 8%. Again, in today's day and age, that is extremely weak. All type res pen for the ultimate damage dealt by Acheron is going to be increased by 20%, and the damage dealt by the basic and skill will also be considered as ultimate damage and can reduce enemy toughness regardless of weakness types. All of that great fun jazz. And jumping over to the light cone, we have a 36% increase to the crit damage, which is very good. When you hit an enemy, you're going to inflict them with Mirage Fizzle. For each time the wearer attacks, this effect can trigger up to 1 time. The wearer deals 24% increased damage to the enemy with that debuff, and the damage dealt by the ultimate additionally increases by 24%. So a very common thing throughout Acheron's entire kit is that the damage multipliers are extremely low. I showed you Himiko's ultimate, right? And that was just the ultimate. Let's go ahead and just take a quick glance at her assist skill. Okay, the assist skill uses, okay, you gain Seraphim and you do damage, increases the damage dealt, all of that fun jazz. Can I actually look at the damage multiplier of the assist skill? I don't think it will let me. Oh, actually, it'll be right here. You get all type res pen in there, increased damage, all of that fun jazz. So Acheron has fallen tremendously behind in terms of damage multipliers. I see a lot of people bring up her stats are kind of okay. Mine are, at least in that fashion, but I think the key factor that we need to look at is increasing the overall damage. And another thing I honestly think that we should be considering is reworking all of the Eidolons, obviously. E1, this right here needs to be included in her base kit. That it's just flat out that needs to be increased. The first part right here about reducing the restriction from the ability characters needs to be taken out. This just in her kit, this does not need to be here. Where is it? The Abyss, right here. This does not need to be in here. Or right, you have that restriction of 1. Increase the damage multipliers. Increase the 115% up to 200%. And for the 160, again, this is if you don't want to take that out, you want to keep that in to make her a little more unique-ish. You increase the 160 to 320. You double it in order for her to get to that minimum requirement. I think that is huge. Another key aspect with Acheron is that I don't think people really understand is that she doesn't scale with anything. Whereas we get newer units who scale off of HP, like with the Remembrance team, or with attack, like Himiko Nova, or even like we have like the Elation units. Granted, that's a little different, but we have break effect, right? Scaling off of the break, increasing overall damage. Acheron needs to have a scaling component within her kit that needs to be added. So honestly, I think that what you end up doing is, let me look at, I guess we'll, like, one of these bonus abilities you just include in something else, and then you add in a scaling effect. And with Acheron, I definitely think that you boost, or you scale off of her own attack, or you scale off of her speed. I think those are the two key things, mainly attack, is that you will then increase the amount of crit damage that you output. Like, let's say you want a minimum of 2,500 attack, right? And for every 100 attack over that 2500, you gain an additional percentage into your crit damage, which will thus allow Acheron to be outputting more damage. So this is like a complete workaround for what she is currently at, but by doing so, it will bring her back up to the current state where modern DPS characters reside. Now, the light cone, honestly, the crit damage right here, you can keep that. Just keep that the way it is. The Mirage Fizzle, keep that because that works in conjunction with her ultimate. So there's no need to take that out. However, the damage multipliers right here should be buffed to, I want to say maybe 36% or 35% to allow that additional damage increase on top of the scaling off of the attack and increasing the Abyss's talent multipliers. Doing all of that, but I think the key biggest thing is making her scale off of her own attack. By doing so, it will allow Acheron to have another stat that you can focus on. You get that crit rate to a decent amount, and then by having her scale off of the attack, by converting excess attack into crit damage, allows for more output from this character, who is, keep in mind, in lore, Honkai Star Rail, a game that really thrives on lore, is one of the strongest characters in the game. Is a emanator of nihility. She is like the end all be all of emanators. So I think doing this actually puts her right where she needs to be, and quite frankly works extremely well. You pair her up with other nihility characters like a Mortonix Blade, or even like a Zhao Qi, or even like a Cypher, being able to reduce enemies' defense. You make that into a cohesive team by doing this Nova Flame buff to Acheron, and makes her extremely good. So that's gonna be all for me, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know what you think Acheron should get as a Nova Flame buff, and I'll see you within the next video.